Hello and welcome to Experts Live UK Community Voices. This series is all about the people behind the Microsoft community, the speakers, experts and community leaders from across the Microsoft ecosystem, the ones who willingly spend their spare time talking about technology for fun. I'm Bruce Cullen, and in each episode I sit down with these wonderful folk. We'll talk about their journey, how they got started, the challenges they faced, and ultimately what led them to where they are today. But from today, for the very first time, there's a twist. We're going to be also asking each guest to tell me something, to explain something to me that I didn't know before. Now, these are all experts in their field, these speakers of ours. These are people who have spent years deep in the weeds of their chosen Microsoft technology. So it would be rude of me to not get some free education at the same time. So, expect some real technical insight, from an introduction to an area to the tricks and tips that separate our guests from the rest, the lessons learned the hard way and the things they wish someone had explained to them before the third late night troubleshooting session. And generally speaking, I spent my whole life in sort of software engineering, so I have a lot to learn from our wonderful speakers and guests. The goal is really simple, to learn something genuinely useful from people who build, break and fix this stuff for real. So whether you're just starting out or well into your career, this is about practical knowledge, real experience and learning from the community. And today I'm joined by co-host Geoff Ross. Hello Geoff, how are you doing?
Hello, Bruce. Yes, I am doing very good. I was trying so hard not to interrupt to make a very unfair joke about how easy it is to teach you something that you don't know.
I mean, someone was going to make it, so, you know, probably it was you. But it's very true.
It would have been unfair. It would have been unfair to make it. Funny, but unfair. So, no, yes, doing
well.
All
good.
How are you? You're well?
We all have our blind spots. All is well here, all is well. A busy day of driving Gemini today to generate mocks for something that we're working on, which is very cool. It's not just the two of us here though today, so I won't bore you all with the details. We're also joined by a very special guest, Melissa Hale, or Mel, as you prefer to call, because I'm not your mum. You're not in trouble. It's okay. Mel is an MVP and a D365 consultant. Welcome to the show, Mel. Let's get started.
Hi, Mel.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Geoff. Lovely to be here. Is this the part where I talk about me and bore everybody?
Bore everyone.
Yes,
that's my job to bore everyone. But this is definitely the point where you talk about you. Let's start with that. Please can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about who you are.
Lovely. So my name's Mel. I come from Liverpool in the United Kingdom. Woo woo. And I'm a D365 consultant, although we'll talk about that later. I consider myself more of a Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate consultant. I recently became an MVP in February. I go around the world and do my silly talks about testing and career changing and all that good stuff. And I'm also the co-founder of Manchester AI UG, which is my baby, and I love it. And that is a quarterly user group where we talk all things AI, Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, you name it. I also volunteer for a charity called Collaboration for Kids. I am the AI governance lead. That's been a really fun journey. And overall, massive nerd. And when I'm not doing that, I do horseback archery.
Okay, there's so much there I want to dig into.
Gosh, where do we start?
I'm going to start with
introduction.
Yeah, let's start with horseback archery. Let's start there. Why not? Tell me more. What is it? Is it as it sounds?
Yes. Although someone once said to me, "Do you shoot the horses?" And I was like, "No."
That's a different sport altogether.
Yeah, we don't like that sport.
That's very cool.
Horseback archery. I effectively was self-taught for a very long time, which was a wild thing to do. I basically got a job at a summer camp in California where their boasting point to the staff was, "We have a really good insurance policy, so whatever you want to do, go nuts." I loved them. And I said, "Hey, can I teach myself horse archery, and can I then teach the kids?" And they were like, "Sure." So got some books, got some horses, got some very cheap horse bows online, and we figured it out. It was a good time. I've now actually gone and learned from people who know how to do it, so I actually hit the targets now.
I mean, that's only half the battle, surely.
Closer to the skill of archery or riding?
Without aging myself, I've been a horse rider for the best part of 3 decades, and the riding part is very easy. Like, I've had people who've never ridden a horse, I've taken them with me, who've got archery skills, and they're really good at it. Whereas if I take horse riders who've never fired a bow before, they tend to suck. So I think if you're an archer, very easy. If you're a horse rider, not so much.
Interesting. I would have guessed the other way around. So that was, yeah.
The horse kind of knows its job. It just runs forward. So as long as you stay on,
you're fine. Looking at the two separate skills, if I had to sort of guess which one you can just turn up and do and which one requires a lot of practice, I would have thought you could just turn up and fire a bow, whereas riding a horse, that would go very wrong for me first time. But, well, good to learn stuff.
I think if it were me, it would be the staying on the horse while attempting to fire the bow, like just the general coordination of even attempting that, that would cause me just to fall off. So I wouldn't even get as far as shooting the bow.
Yes, that's what's so interesting about it, because the very nature of horse riding, at least for me, would be hanging on, as much as you can. So the idea of then letting go to do something else with your hands is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I suppose riding with no hands actually is quite terrifying, because obviously you've got hold of the bow, right? So the horse is just going forward, and what you do is you lean forward, and it's a special saddle with it's like a Western saddle with the horn at the front, and you lean into it, and then the horse is running, and it's counterbalance situation. But yeah, it's maybe I've been doing it too long, but it's a lot easier than it sounds.
Wow, it doesn't sound easy, but I'm glad to hear that for you it's easy. I'm sure it's for some. Let's move on to something tech related. I feel it would be. I could probably fill a whole hour just talking about this
conversation, but wow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to do some learning, Geoff.
We talk about how everyone's an expert in their own field, and I think that literally has proved that point.
I'm an expert in a field.
Literally in a field. I love it. So talking about being an expert in a field of a more digital variety, you're a D365 consultant, which is very cool. Sounds very cool, but what is a D365 consultant? I've heard of an M365 consultant, but a D365 consultant? What is that? So
the D365 refers to Dynamics 365, which is kind of the intersection between these sort of suite of business applications like client services, field services, and Power Platform. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I'm a D365 consultant in name only. I've never actually used any Dynamics. So I was brought on by my company to work on a Canvas app. But the way that their structure worked, we were all D365 consultants. But yes, so I'm a D365 consultant who's never used Dynamics. But I know what it is.
Interesting.
The best kind.
Well, at least you're upfront about that.
Yeah. It's easier going in with that.
That makes sense, yeah. Just if you're looking for me to do anything with Dynamics, I'm not the right person. But so Power Apps, Power Platform in general, tell me more about that. I have to learn something about those. I hear them come up quite a lot, and the only one from that world I'm familiar with, or vaguely familiar with, is Power BI. So tell me about
That's the one I'm not familiar with. So between us, we can probably figure it out. So Power Platform, I believe, incorporates, so you've got your Power Apps, which are made up of Canvas apps, model-driven apps, now code apps, I suppose, which is a whole fun era of things happening over there, and Vibe apps, which I haven't actually played a lot with yet, but I see some really cool stuff online. You've got Power Automate, which I'm an MVP for Power Automate specifically, which obviously you automate, business tasks, repetitive processes, things like that. I love Power Automate. It's the thing that made me love Power Platform. You've obviously got, I believe, Copilot and Copilot Studio sit within the Power Platform suite as well. Dataverse is our sort of data source, which also sits within the Power Platform, but it kind of just exists to hold data for the other things. So your Power Automates, your Power Apps, your model apps. I feel like I'm forgetting a really obvious one. I wish I brought a diagram.
Diagrams are available.
Yeah, if I just go get one. But yeah, I think that's where I sit in the Power Platform space. They're what I use. And it's all about building really good business solutions for our customers, our clients, and the charity as well.
That makes sense. So what does the sort of typical day look like? We'll come on to the charity bit in a minute. I'm itching to get onto that. But let's start with, what does a typical day look like for you right now?
For me, I'm woken up at the crack of dawn by my very large cat. His name is Potato. He likes to be fed at 6 a.m. and no later. So I get woken up by him. I go make my coffee. I'll usually log on to LinkedIn, emails, things like that. It's a very sad morning in my house because I tend to get a lot of messages for the other things I do outside of my day job. I'll go through those, make sure everything's up to date. Then I'll log on to my work laptop. I'll see if our clients have broken anything over the night, which does happen more often than not, or somebody's, I don't know, sent a £1 million deal they shouldn't have sent, etc. So making sure nothing's on fire. And then I actually get to go to our DevOps sprint board and get to, choose what I'm going to work on that day. Maybe it's a new build. Maybe it's investigating. We're doing a lot of AI stuff at the minute, which is very hush-hush. So I'm very excited about that. Investigation tasks, lots of meetings. We get to the end of the workday. I'll turn my work laptop off, maybe actually go outside and get some fresh air and some sunshine. And then I usually try and finish the day with something non-techie. So I really like to read a book, like a physical book rather than an e-reader.
Wow.
Something like that.
There's no substitute for turning actual pages, is there? No, that makes sense. And the back-to-back meetings is the one thing that, regardless of what sector you're in within tech, is one thing that is consistent. So within what you've just listed out there, in terms of your typical day, you mentioned AI, and obviously you're not going to be able to tell me about the secret cool AI thing you're working on, but generally speaking, what is the kind of intersection between Power Platform and AI? It's at the core of everything these days, but like, what specifically does that look like?
That's a really good question. I don't think there is one core. I think there's lots of little offshoots. I think there's AI for productivity, which is a big one. And it's a big conversation in our company at the moment, where we're trying to use, Copilot specifically because we're Microsoft first, but not Microsoft always. So we use Copilot for, helping draft emails, or I recently used it for someone asked me to quote how long it would take to build an app for, I think it was a task management system, which I'd done something similar before. So I kind of just rambled in it. As you could tell, that's how I ramble a lot. So I rambled into Copilot and I said, turn this into an executive summary and a timeline based on these estimates. And it, formatted it, made it pretty, made it lovely, meant they could go straight to the stakeholder with that. Obviously, double checking some bits, but it really sped up how we were using it, and rather than writing it out by hand. And then in terms of the actual more techie side, a lot of Copilot Studio, a lot of building agents. Again, I can't go too in depth, but we're doing something with an agent at the moment embedded within our app. So basically they'll press a button in the Canvas app and it calls to the agent we've built in the background to do a summary for them. Which again has been a big time saver, and we've just finished red teaming it, making sure that it's actually giving them the right data, make sure it's not hallucinating too much. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of different offshoots, and it's a really exciting time for AI and Power Platform.
AI in general, that's really cool. You mentioned Canvas apps. What is a Canvas app? It's a term you've mentioned twice, and I was like, what is that?
Sorry, that's me. So Power Apps exist in two flavors. You've got your model-driven app, which I think is usually the more standard one people go for. It's very plug and play. So you've got your tables of your data. You can, hook them up in Dataverse, and you can go, make me a model-driven app. And you end up with this, I don't want to say ugly. I'm not saying model-driven apps are ugly, but there's a certain look. And it's very much just a point and click, and you sort of have interactive tables. They're very handy. They're very quick and easy to get up and running, and especially for really simple processes, I think they're great. Whereas a Canvas app, you have absolute, complete creative control. You can, within reason, pretty much make anything that you could make in, say, the only other programming language I have an experience with is React. So, it's a much quicker way to make a React app, if you will.
I see. Like no low code kind of approach.
Yeah, so it's completely like drag and drop. You've got a library of components, so things like buttons, galleries. There's even like media. You can have media uploads. It's just it's a playground, and I love it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
so you mentioned
data first or kind of UI first. It's the kind
yes, I like that. UI first.
Yeah.
UI first. That's a good term. I'll use that rather than low no code. Can tell my age from that statement. So you mentioned sort of charity work earlier, and what you've just said around UI first approach to app development. Look, I'm learning. I was thinking about the sort of charity stuff I'm involved in, and how we have a need. I've tried to use Power Apps before, And the issue was the front end, effectively. I got a reasonable distance into building something, but not the whole way for that reason. Maybe it's time to take a look. But it's a good segue into your charity work. Tell me more about that and how it intersects with AI and your day job and your knowledge.
Thank you. Definitely. So back in, it would have been 2024, I think, September, I got a random message on LinkedIn one day from a lovely lady named Jenny Longsmith. And she was one of the HR volunteers for a charity called Collaboration for Kids. And their whole mission, their statement is about having healthier, happier kids across the UK, because we have a little bit of a child health crisis here in the UK. I haven't got my numbers, I'm so sorry, but I think the last time I looked, it was something like 11% of children under the age of 11 were either obese or overweight. And that's obviously a very touchy subject, I know. But just speaking purely from a health perspective, that's not good, because children that are overweight or obese are more likely to carry that into adulthood and also have the comorbidities. My scientist side's coming out now. Carry the comorbidities into later life. So, we're setting them up for failure effectively. And, things like COVID, things like a more digital life, things like cost of living crisis, all these things have impacted especially lower income families in the UK. And their whole thing is about giving them better access to resources, not shaming them, giving them, the opportunity and just giving them a space to actually go and play and be kids rather than sit home and play on an Xbox. And also they do a lot of research. They have a lot of science volunteers. They have a lot of research volunteers who are actually looking into the data to try and, figure out solutions to this on a socioeconomic level. So she approached me, that's the charity. So she approached me to say that this charity run by Heidi Glover effectively didn't have a digital workspace. They didn't have any kind of collaboration outside of Teams. So they wanted a SharePoint, a team SharePoint. Communication SharePoint, where they could kind of foster that digital collaborativeness. And that's what we did. We built them a SharePoint. It was a really fun project. I really enjoyed it. They've since taken it over and actually now have content team creators. They have the marketing team set up on there, and they actually we've made them a bunch of Power Automate flows to automate processes. And it's so good to see how far it's come in a year. Over the last 6 months, there started to be a lot of conversations around AI, and a lot of our charity volunteers aren't in the tech space. So they're not, exposed to these conversations. They're not really getting the most up-to-date information. And AI was a little bit of a mystery to a lot of them, especially we have a lot of retired volunteers as well who are also removed from
nature volunteering
conversations. And the whole idea was, basically, I had a conversation with somebody, and it turned out that they had put some personal information into, I think it was Grok, which not ideal. Not ideal. Please don't do that. Anybody listening to this, don't put personal information into any internet-connected AI. Just don't do it. It's silly. Make it anonymous. So someone did that. I went and had a conversation with our IT manager, and I said, hey, we should probably tell people not to do that because they don't know. So that started the conversation, and long story short, after a lot of meetings and a lot of documents, I became the AI governance lead because I write the AI policy and do workshops and webinars on AI safety and ethics. And yeah, I've loved it. It's just so good seeing people actually engage and enjoy it.
That's really good to hear. It's such an important area of AI, effectively governance. Even within tech, you think like software developers, have spent a lot of time working in software engineering, that they would know better than to upload their PII effectively into a form of AI. Nope. For them, they see it, rather than not knowing the dangers, they see it as, well, I can get my job done quicker if I do this. But that's not your data, that's the company's data. Or even if it is your data, is that a good idea? So it's such an important thing to get involved in. And I can definitely, relate to the whole charity aspect in that. Charities often, as you say, they're people that aren't necessarily AI or even computer literate. In some cases, it's so important. That's really, really cool.
Now, why do you think there's such a correlation between charities, non-profits, and tools like M365, Power Platform, Power Automate? Because we see it, I see it a lot as well. And why do you think that is? Or do you agree with that, first of all, I guess? And then, yeah, why do you think that is?
Sorry, Geoff, you just cut out on that last second. Which bit am I agreeing or disagreeing with?
A lot of charities seem to kind of use hard M365, Power Automate, Power Platform, those tool sets. And obviously, a lot of sectors do, but charities seem to use it in earnest.
I think I have an answer to this one. So, at the risk of upsetting the Microsoft mothership, who, by the way, I love very much, until recently, they had a charity licenses. Oh goodness, what is it?
Yeah,
I should know this. I'm on the admin tenant, but they had charity licenses that were much more readily available for registered charities. So I think you could have like 100
10 business premium.
Yeah,
yeah.
10 business premium. I think it was 100 business basics or something. Or no, 300 business basics. That's what we've got. Yeah.
So I think that's why, although I believe as of March this year, that has now dropped. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember some kind of email about those numbers dropping quite substantially.
So I wonder if we'll see they're removing all of the business premium, but they're keeping business basic, I think. So still something.
Yeah, so you still have access to things like PowerPoint, Word, Excel, the basics. But for example, we were doing a proof of concept for a Power App. It obviously doesn't make sense now because we have no funding to run it, so that kind of died in the water. But I think that's probably why there was a lot of charity organizations using it, because it was quite heavily supported and backed by Microsoft.
Okay, interesting.
Makes sense. Good answer. So let's.
Just a gender theory.
No, I think it's a very fair theory. Let's say we were a lot more stringent in the work I'm involved in. Not in my day job, around who gets what kind of license when they took away the free one. So it makes total sense. Let's go back to your day job a little bit, and just generally your career. How did you get started in tech in general? How did you get going?
Oh, excellent question. So again, without turning it into a massive monologue, I actually was I used to research parasites and snake venom. I was a scientist, and then in 2021 or 22, I can't remember now, but one of those years I dropped out of my PhD because I just didn't love it anymore. I wasn't enjoying it. I was enjoying spending time in R and R Studio doing the data, not so much the actual sciencey bits. And a friend of mine who was a software engineer basically said, "Oh, I think you'd be good at this." So I did some like courses online, and I found a bootcamp, signed up, sort of I don't know what I'm doing. I really loved it. Like, I genuinely fell in love with the problem solving. I fell in love with the building something tangible, because that's something in science. It takes so many years and so much effort to ever actually see a result, whereas in tech, it's so fast. So yeah, I did a bootcamp. I got a job before I finished my bootcamp. Don't tell them. And then, just kind of found my way to the Microsoft ecospace, and I'm never leaving.
Sounds good. What drew you to these kind of technology we've been talking about, Power Platform, Power Automate? You said you particularly fell in love with. What drew you there as opposed to the many other tech spaces?
Great question, because if I'm being completely honest, originally I had visions of being a video game designer. I'm kind of glad that's not where it went with the state of everything now. And I was doing a lot of Python, dabbled in C#. I wasn't very good in C#. And then my first job was actually in a different low code. I don't know if you guys have ever used QuickBase.
Yeah, I'm aware of it, but never used it.
Yeah, can't say I've used it.
Again, at the risk of me getting a very angry email from someone at some point, I like to refer to it as Power Platform if you got it from Temu.
Yeah.
That was my experience.
Okay.
And then I was introduced to the Power Platform space by my second job. So I did QuickBase in my first job. My second job was Power Platform, and I was just like, oh, this is so much better.
Yeah, the possibility.
That's cool.
And yeah, that's what drew me to it. I think it was the immediate, oh my goodness, this is so much better and so much more well connected, and there's so many more resources.
Makes total sense. So at the end of the day, live with something that feels like having your arm cut off when you haven't got to? That's great.
Exactly.
How about community then? How did community come into your life? You mentioned effectively running meetups, but and I know you speak at conferences sort of too. How did that kind of come to be?
It was kind of an accident. So what happened was I was sort of on LinkedIn one day. I was still sort of baby dev. I'd just been doing it for maybe a year and a half or so. And I came across a post for Nordic Summit back in 2024. And I don't know what possessed me, because I'd never traveled abroad for a science conference, but that was paid for by my university. So I was like, why not? Let's go attend it. So I bought a ticket, flew to Norway, went there all by myself. I didn't know anybody. I literally knew nobody in the space. It was so terrifying. Everyone was lovely. I went through the conference, spoke to some people through the day. And then at the end of the day, Magnus Sorensen was doing like a game show. So he kind of asked for volunteers from the audience. Again, I don't know what possessed me. I put my hand up in this room full of like Norwegian Scandies, and I put my hand up and he's like, you. And I was like, oh no. And then I'm walking up to the stage and I sit on this stage. And I just kind of went for it. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? A room full of people can laugh at me. And my favorite part of that was I ended up getting the full room to chant Liverpool, Liverpool. So I think that
really does sound like the definition of just going for it. That's really cool.
I was so not silly, but like it was, it was a fun game show. It was meant to be like a fun thing at the end of the day. And we had like a quiz. We got matched up with an MVP. I got Anna Urez. She's amazing and I love her to pieces. She was like my first community friend, I guess. And also I got interviewed by Ulrika Albeck as well. They have the Nordic Summit podcast. So that was technically my first podcast way back when. It was probably terrible. Please, no one look for it.
All good. This is the polished version, so that's good to hear we're not the warm-up acts.
Yeah, let's go.
Hey.
I want to ask if, like me, you didn't realize at this point that how big Microsoft community was. Did you, when you went for your first community event in Norway, did you not realize how much there was in the UK? Just completely
not a clue. So obviously I went to that Norway one, and then obviously I can't remember the order of things, but I must have gone to the all-day Manchester or all-day London one. And then I started speaking to people. I started, learning about the local user groups. I went to my local user group in Manchester, and it just goes on infinite. It's like a sea of people. Like there's 10 more behind each person. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
I can relate to that. Not quite realizing, how big that scene was really. You go to one event, you think, oh wow, this community thing's great, but that's one event, and then you realize that next week there's another event, and the week after that there's another event.
Never ending. Because conference season is a thing in academia. Like I think it's sort of the summer when people are like they can travel. It's all year round here. Like I think my first one this year was the last week of January. Everyone's over at Color Cloud, I think, this week in Germany. I'm not there this year. I hope they all have a great time. And then there's EPPC in June. We've got East of England Summit in May. It's non-stop. It's great, but it's a lot.
You might have forgotten one there, Mel.
Oh, and Experts Live, of course, in London. Sorry, at the start of June, on the 11th and 12th of June.
11th and 12th. There you go. You have done your research. That's good. You're obviously speaking.
I wonder
it's
why.
All good. Don't worry. I won't take it personally. You're obviously speaking at Experts Live UK this year, which is really, really cool. What's your session all about?
So I'm doing a joint session with the lovely Marain. I think that man is wonderful, and he invited me to co-host his session with him. We actually did it at Collab Days Oslo last year, and we had a lot of fun. So it's called Spark Joy in Microsoft 365. Marie Kondo your data. So for any house enthusiasts or Marie Kondo enthusiasts, we're basically taking her principles and applying it to the M365 space. So decluttering your digital estate, if you will. And, how do you create a cleaner, safer, better M365 environment? And it's really fun. We have like little handouts and stuff. Like we teach you a little bit of Japanese. It's a really fun session. Like it's one of my favorites that I've done.
Awesome. The notion of, especially with AI, garbage in, garbage out makes total sense. It's the how piece that I get lost on. So I will try and be there myself because I have some learning to do. Which is really cool. So you mentioned sort of speaking at conferences. How did that come to be, and especially what led you to actually start to running your own meetups? Effectively, you mentioned the AI meetup in Manchester. I'm sorry if I've mangled the title. I have mangled the title.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. We keep changing it. No, I'm kidding. So speaking kind of happened by accident. I went to that one in Norway. I basically was drinking with a bunch of the MVPs and speakers afterwards, and after several tequila sunrises, I was told like, oh, future speaker, you should do speaking, da da da. And I was like, and they kind of bullied me into submitting some sessions that later went on to get picked, and then I had to figure out how to actually give sessions, so that was fun. And it's just sort of carried on now, and I get to do talks with like these really cool, amazing people from all over the world, and I'm just really lucky. And sometimes I pinch myself in the morning and be like, I have really cool friends. Anyway, the Manchester one actually happened because I'm friends with Stephanie Stacey, who also goes by Miss AI. Mm-hmm. She's super cool. She's probably one of my favorite people as well. And we got talking at Cloud Tech Tallinn. And I basically said to her, you know, I love what you do. I love your user group. I love how you're bringing people together around tech and just generally being an awesome woman in tech. And I wish we had something like that, because she's down in Bletchley and I'm obviously up in Manchester. Oh, sorry, Liverpool, Manchester, same thing. But don't tell them I said that. But, you know, I said I wish we had something like that in the north. I'm going to get absolutely slaughtered for saying that. But I said, you know, I wish we had something like that. And she goes, then why don't you make one? And I was like, I can do that? I can make one. And then she really helped me through the whole process. We basically branched off from Bletchley AI. UK AI is now, I believe, we're in the process of maybe 4 or 5 groups across the UK. I know Birmingham's having their first one in a few weeks. That's really cool. So that's turning into a really, really cool little collaborative. But yeah, so we do that quarterly. I have an amazing committee of all women. So it's myself, Sarah Jones, and Claire Connor. From ANS, and it's this incredible thing where we bring, you know, up to like 50 people every couple of weeks, and they get to learn something new about tech from people in the industry. It's not just for techies, it's for people who just want to learn. There really is no entry to requirement to entry.
I think that's even better in that it's not just for techies, you know, because I mean, AI is such a broad and sprawling topic, isn't it? You know, and it's going to affect all of our careers, whether we're in tech or not. So the fact it's open to all is so important. That's great.
Yeah. And lives outside of work as well, right? To the point about the retirees, you know, volunteering that don't understand it and need to. Yeah.
Agreed. So speaking of learning, we now get to the piece of the show where it's time for me to sit down and shut up and learn something. And in this case, it's going to be about Power Platform, I guess. So what do I not know about Power Platform, apart from a lot?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So it doesn't count when I told you the difference between Canvas apps and model driven. We can't use that.
I was going to say, you've already, I mean, that was knowledge already. So you could already say you've covered this one off.
Fantastic question. I think I'm going to kind of cheat. I was at Canadian Power Platform Summit recently, and I actually went to Lisa Crosby and Dion Taylor's, and I've been told never to say Diane or she will punch me. Their workshop, Dion Taylor, their workshop on Copilot agents, and we spent the whole day building an agent, you know, learning all about what's under the hood. And the one thing I didn't know until very, very recently is that, and I think it is a recent development, when you're building a Copilot agent, you can now select different models. You're not just restricted to the Microsoft AI model or the Copilot. I forget the name under the hood for the Copilot one, but it's now got the same engine as Claude as well. Okay. So you can actually switch the models when you're building it, and obviously that determines what kind of results you get. So that can be a fun experiment to kind of test the models against each other.
And very valuable to be able to do so. So how do you actually get going with building a Copilot then? I've heard people talk about building a Copilot like it's clicking your fingers, but for me, it's definitely not. How do you get going with that?
That's an excellent question. So first things first, you will need access to Copilot Studio. And I'm having to remember now because I haven't done it in a little bit. But you will need access to Copilot Studio license. And then you go into Copilot Studio and you can, as if building a new app, it'll say build new agent. And one of the really cool things is that you can restrict its knowledge sources. So I think this is in an attempt to reduce hallucinations, I think. So let's say you were building, I've got to come up with a scenario off the top of my head now. Okay. You were building a horseback archery school's,
yes.
What's the word? The bot you interact with on their website.
Customer service agent.
Thank you. You were building a customer service agent for the horseback archery, the Bruce's horseback archery school. And you only wanted it.
Dream big.
And you only wanted it to have, so if people were trying to book to learn horseback archery from you, and you only wanted it to have the course dates that you've already set up in your spreadsheets, your Dataverse, etc., you can give it access to those tables. You could also provide it a PDF with the dates that you're doing those courses, or you could connect it to SharePoint, but that's spicy apparently. Some people don't like using SharePoint as a data source.
It's not a database.
For tiny things, it's fine, but apparently it's very controversial. But you can restrict its data sources, and I think that's really cool, especially for internal builds where you want it to have really specific knowledge, not necessarily the Bruce's horseback archery school. But if you were building, for example, an agent to review finance documents or to review policies, or maybe you're a new employee and you want to ask about the benefits on your new contract and you don't want to read 60 pages, things like that. It's just limitless opportunities, and I'm really excited to get to play with it.
That's really, really cool. So here's a question I've been dying to ask somebody. So Dataverse is a database. We have SQL. That's a database. What's the difference?
That's an excellent question. I think they're just different databases, surely. So for SQL, you'd need something like, and I've not touched SQL in a very long time, but you'd need something like, is it MongoDB, to actually interact with it? Sorry, I'm going to look really stupid now. I don't use SQL.
No, it's quite all right. I know, well, my knowledge of SQL is sort of greater, but still not great than my knowledge of Dataverse. And this is in the context of building stuff, where typically we're talking about sort of enterprise level systems that have the need to store large amounts of data and have them queryable quickly and easily, and all of this. You'll create queries to query that data in SQL at scale. And so I kind of know SQL, but I and all I know of Dataverse is the name. There must be some kind of difference. I have no idea what it is, or what
no code, low code SQL. That's how
okay.
So rather than doing things like select or join, or again, I haven't touched SQL in a long time.
Sure, they're still there.
Instead of doing that, I think you can do something called advanced find, which is it's more like Excel. Like if you can use Excel formulas, you can use database queries, Dataverse queries. Now I'm doing it.
All good. No, I like the sound of it already. I cannot do SQL queries. Well, that's not true. Of course I can do SQL queries. I asked ChatGPT to come up with a SQL query to find the data in my database.
We can all do SQL queries.
Of course, SQL queries for everyone. That's really cool. Brilliant. Cool. So we're going to move on slightly and just think about some advice now. You clearly have been around for enough time to have knowledge of this space that people don't have. What's the one piece of advice you give someone who's early on in their career in tech, or one thing that you wish you'd learnt when you were getting going now?
What would you tell yourself?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a very good question. And I'm not going to take that personally that you just called me old. No, I'm kidding. I did.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's just that you've been around a bit. Was like, oh, ouch, that hurt. That's fine.
Sorry.
I think the best bit of advice, and honestly, I think it applies to anybody, young, old, career switcher, not career switcher. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. Be comfortable being the dumbest person in the room. Like, I like being the dumbest person in the room because that means I have something to learn from everybody there. I know some people really want to, be the smartest person and prove everything they know. And I really don't see the value in that, because if you go in thinking you know everything, you're not going to learn anything. Whereas if you look at every opportunity as an opportunity to learn and grow and just get something out, not get something out of it, but, you know, there's something to be learned from every experience, from every project, from honestly the random conversations you have with people in community, whether they've been in community a year or 10. So I'd say, yes, stay really curious and be okay taking up space in a room, even if you don't think you're ready for it yet, because you're never going to feel ready for it. And that's okay.
Quite.
Wow.
That we had a whole podcast episode on that topic effectively, which is, you know, community. Everybody has value. Everyone has something to give. Everyone is an expert in something, but also everyone has something to learn by keeping an open mind. Definitely speaking for myself now. I've learned so much today already, and here we are.
I like that as well. The idea that yes, although you might be the expert in one situation, you know, let's say you're presenting at the front, you walk out into the next room and you're then ready to learn. You talk to someone in the queue for drinks and they've got something amazing to share and for you to learn. Yeah, I love that.
So my final question then, before we sort of bring things to a close, so are there, you know, any areas of tech? Go for it, Karen. You go for it first, Geoff. You go first.
Well, I just wanted to ask, what do you love the most about being involved in the Microsoft community?
Is it really cheesy if I say the people? Like, the people in this community are just the nicest, just most wonderful, sometimes chaotic, very chaotic people, and I love that. And just, you know, I've yet to come across an event where people are not open and warm and, you know, just generally accepting. Like, I really like seeing when you can tell someone new's kind of coming to an event and they're not with anybody and they're kind of on the outskirts, and someone just kind of adopts them and then suddenly they're in, especially when the drink come out, right? But I just love that. It feels so inclusive. That's the word I wanted.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. So my final question was going to be, there's clearly a lot out there in tech in Microsoft. And what are you planning to sort of look at and explore next in your journey through Microsoft?
That's a better
tech?
question than mine. I'm jealous.
No, they're both good, Geoff. Don't worry. Don't do yourself a disservice.
Annoyed.
Different flavors. I think that's a great question. And I think it would be disingenuous of me to not say it's going to be something AI related, because that's kind of where everybody's focus is right now. I'm having fun playing with Copilot Cowork. I'm also having fun playing with it in other engines like Claude. I think there's a lot to be seen there. Again, I don't know what I'm doing with it yet, but I'm playing with it and figuring it out. Yeah, I think it's definitely something in the AI space, definitely something maybe in the Cowork space. Just seeing what the capabilities are and where the ceiling is, I guess.
That's very cool. And the thing with that kind of stuff is it's changing all the time. Very cool. Well, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of this episode of Experts Live UK Community Voices. But before we wrap up today, we've already mentioned, of course, that we're running a full-scale conference at which you get to hear Mel talk in person on the 11th and 12th of June. Tickets are still very much on sale. We have 1 day and a 2 day ticket available to you. 1 day tickets are priced at £130, which is our workshops, which are super, super deep. But of course, my recommendation to you would be the full 2 day extravaganza, which are still a bargain at £215. And where you get sort of sessions, you get networking as well, and a sort of broader cast of speakers, all in London, all in person. So please do go and check those out. I think, Geoff, when we sort our logistics out, we're going to do an episode on effectively the conference to give people a better feel for what they'll get, basically. We'll do that afterwards.
Let's do that soon. But yeah, for now, know that you'll get amazing speakers like Mel.
Exactly.
Maybe some drinks like she alluded to, maybe.
I mean, drinks are good. They're always a good reason to go to such a thing.
And definitely that like great, welcoming, inclusive community vibe that she also mentioned. I think that everybody will experience that at Experts Live UK 2026.
I agree. And if you're not sure of who the speakers will be, of course, they're on the website. But of course, all of the previous podcast episodes, this is number 10 now. Wow, we're in double digits. Are speakers, exactly. There's a milestone for you. So do go and check them out for a feel of who you'll be hearing from. And of course, that is the theme we will flow into future episodes. All that's really left to do is to say a huge thank you to you, Mel, for sharing your journey, your experience, and most of all, for teaching me something new without making me feel stupid, which is always good. Thank you for joining us. In our next episode, I'll be joined by Starley Hansen, who is CEO at Cloudway and a Copilot MVP. So if you enjoy deep expertise delivered by people who really know their stuff, you do not want to miss that one. And of course, if there's something you'd like for us to cover in a future episode, either a technology or, of course, a guest, please do let us know. You can ping me directly on LinkedIn or, of course, at Experts Live UK on LinkedIn for the royal we rather than just me as an individual. And if you have any questions for Starley, hopefully I'm saying his name right. We'll see when we record that episode. I'll ask him before I start speaking to refer to a mistake I made in a previous episode. And of course, if you have any questions, we're picking them from those that come in. And if you did enjoy this conversation today, please do like, subscribe, share, etc. and follow Experts Live UK on LinkedIn for more community voices and for opportunities for me to learn things the hard way. Thank you for watching. Until next time, thank you.